In this video we'll be looking at a topic called changing the subject. Now all this basically means is just rearranging a formula so that another variable is the subject. So for example here we have v equals u plus at. We want to make the subject u. So ultimately our answer will be u equals something. Now I've started with an easier example and there's 3 examples here, each that gets a little bit harder. And I've taken 3 different examples from your science GCSE. So you might be familiar with some of these. Maybe not this top one, but definitely the bottom 2. So v equals u plus at. If I rewrite that underneath, v equals u plus at, we want u on its own. So I've briefly explained rearranging in the solving equations videos. So that might be helpful to watch that first, but I'll explain it in depth here as well. We just want u on its own. The only thing stopping that currently is the plus at after it. And to get rid of that plus at, just like before, we need to subtract at. So treat them just like numbers, even though it's like a combination of letters, they work exactly the same as the numbers we were dealing with before. So that means on the right hand side we're going to just be left with u now, but on the left hand side it's going to be v minus at. So our final equation is going to be u equals v minus at, and that's going to be our final answer. Okay, on to our second example. S equals d over t, speed equals distance over time. That's a very common equation in your GCSE science. When it comes to equations like these, where you haven't got any plus or minus, you've just got something is something divided by something, or a multiplication instead, you can write these in terms of triangles. So you might have seen the triangles before, but I find them really helpful. So d is on top of our fraction, so d will go at the top of our triangle. So we can write it as a triangle like this. This basically makes it a lot easier when it comes to rearranging it. So we want to make d the subject. So imagine you put your finger over or cover up the d. What does that leave us with? That leaves us with s and t next to each other. So our final answer is simply going to be d equals st, or s times t. And that's it. Okay, on to our final question now. This is the hardest of the 3. We want to make v the subject of the equation. So again, if we rewrite it out, we want to isolate our v, or v squared first of all. And to do that, we have to notice that the half and the m are being multiplied with that v on the right hand side. So to get rid of them, we must divide by half m. So that is going to leave us with e divided by half m equals v squared. Now in a slightly easier way of writing that, or a nicer looking way, instead of the half on the bottom, we can simply cross that out and make it a 2 on the top, so 2e over m. Now, we've got a v squared on the right hand side, which ultimately we're going to need to get rid of because that's not just v. And the opposite of a square is a square root, so we're going to square root both sides. So square rooting the v squared obviously gives us v, and then it's going to be the square root of 2e over m. Now when it comes to approaching questions like this in your maths paper, in your science paper, it could appear in both, it is very important, I would say, to rearrange the equation first and then substitute your numbers in. It will just make the question a lot easier. Thank you for watching, and I hope that helped.